Hello, ladies and gentlemen. So this video is about a police officer who was arrested and accused for multiple sexual assaults while on duty. And if you don't think I'm telling the truth, I want you to just take a look at this here. And then after, I will give my opinion on what I think about this. It's crazy because you want the police to be someone who you can trust. And so the problem with this issue of this here is that a lot of times the police is not always someone you can trust. And so, yes, there are good cops, but we badge of authority to abuse citizens. And so I mentioned this in a video some time ago that women law enforcement, if you encounter uniform, and a lot of times women will be propositioned for sexual favors and for a lot of different, a lot of different things that are inappropriate in terms of the nature of the business of what it is that the police officer is there for, or whatever it is they pull the woman over for, or it's very dangerous. And I don't think some women realize that there are officers that they'll try to get you to have sex with them. I heard a woman and she said that the officer, he said, I had first, but then I thought about it and I said, they have a lot of. She said that this officer told her that if she didn't have sex with him, he was going to not only write the ticket, but he was going to take her to jail. And he was going to put something on her record as if she did more than whatever it is he pulled her over for. And so basically, I guess, maybe he found, something about her interesting enough to proposition her. So she said that she didn't even think she was speeding. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to play this video because it's disturbing, but it's true. This is out of the Yahoo, and it is police officer arrested accused of multiple sexual assaults while on duty. And an officer, Chief Tom Pringle McLeod, Police Department, Oklahoma City.
One of our former cops on duty.
Investigators say while on the clock, Officer Justin Raup had sex with citizens he was sworn to serve and protect.
At this time, we're aware of at least 3 to
16 when Raup was patrolling West Watkins Lake. The first victim says Raup asked her for sexual favors, and she was too scared to say no. A second alleged victim states Raup exposed himself while she was filling out a police report. concerning threats from an ex-boyfriend. She claims he later returned while on duty on the pretext again for unconsensual sex.
And some were just people that had been stopped as part of a traffic violation.
A third case, a woman's car was impounded due to traffic violations. The sexual assault allegedly happened when he offered to drive her home.
Anytime an officer is in uniform and commits any type of criminal act, that's something that definitely we want to know about and we want to prosecute.
Now, investigators are asking if there are any potential other victims out there to please come forward. Right now, the investigation is still ongoing. Reporting live in McLeod, Kelsey Gibbs, Oklahoma's News 4.
Okay, so that's pretty much the video. And so, you know, I've had a couple of friends actually that have had some issues with police officers who will use their badge of authority as a way to get sex from women.
Is this arrest warrant shows?
And so this is pretty prevalent, and I don't think that people realize the seriousness of all of this. This is a whole nother video. Sorry about that. So it's really scary because I don't think people realize that you may not even be doing and it really isn't, or you were speeding, you really weren't speeding, or maybe you were speeding going a little fast, but it gives that officer some way to pull you over or to have some type of dialogue with you. And then if it's not a good cop, if it's one of these officers that uses their badge of authority, a lot of as a window to proposition a woman for sexual favors. And sometimes they will even take it upon themselves to force themselves on you. And so I also had another incident where a close friend of mine, now she told me that this officer was interested in a relationship with her. And he told her that she, in order, you know, she had some prior things on her record. And so he said, you know, I can clean those things up for you on one condition. And that was she had to sleep with him in order for that to happen. I don't know what happened after that. Don't ask me. But there are officers that will use that badge of authority to do a lot of things. I've known of some other friends who, you know, I grew up with in high school who have said that they've seen some officers who, in neighborhoods that we grew up in, that we used to live in when there was a heavy drug trafficking and drug dealers in those neighborhoods, that a lot of times those officers would take money from drug dealers, and they wouldn't patrol on certain streets or in certain alleys so that these drug dealers could conduct their drug business. And so a lot of times people think the police, you know, that all of these officers are honest. Not all of them are. And it takes a long time for them to get caught. And a lot of times people don't want to talk because they're afraid that they're going to be propositioned, or they could even get killed, or somebody could put something on them that isn't true. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen young people where the officers would plant drugs on them to put cases on these people so that they could put them in jail. And so there's a lot that a police officer can do because they have a level of power. And a lot of times, if you get the wrong people in these positions of power, they can do a lot of damage to people's lives. I mean, a lot of damage. They can even go so far as to having people killed. And they can also, sleep with prostitutes, threaten the prostitutes, tell them, if you don't want to go to jail, you're going to have to give me, X, Y, and Z. You're going to have to give me some sexual favors. And so these things do happen. And so this is but one of many things that I know that I have personally seen, people that I've known that have actually experienced these issues. And when you're a young girl in a city and you don't have anywhere to go and you feel scared, sometimes these officers will pick you up and they'll offer you a ride home, but on one condition. And so I do know some people who had that experience, and I won't care to say whom, but that is why people need to understand that a lot of times you have to be careful of who is pulling you over, what they're asking you to do. But with that being said, I'm going to let this video go. It's very scary because you don't know which officer is going to be a decent officer or a good cop from those that are not decent and they're really bad cops. And you never know what they will ask you to do. When you hear those propositions like on one condition, you don't know what it's going to be. And they can also do the same thing with guys, proposition them as well. Make them do something or threaten them or plant something on them so that they're so scared and they won't talk, and then these people are allowed to get away with it, and it just never ends until they run into another unsuspecting victim. With that being said, I'm going to let this video go. I mean, you really got to be careful. Really got to be careful nowadays because you don't know who you're going to get if you encounter law enforcement. Thanks for listening.